Ah. There we go. All right, let's get this light. It will no longer be on. Oh my goodness. I don't know why I thought that was going to be not nearly as difficult as it has ended up being. I apologize. Oh, I really wanted to have a bot set up to use today that I thought was just going to work, but I can't test it until YouTube is live because YouTube is silly, and because YouTube only allows like me to scroll so far back in the chat, and I keep having this problem where if I have a question that's earlier on in the stream, I will lose it once we go past a certain number of chat messages because it only, like, the logs it keeps allows me to scroll back while live or temporary. And I tried for like an hour to set up a chat bot and it's not working, and I don't know why, because I followed the syntax exactly. So I don't know. I don't have any other new way for you all to be able to ask questions. It just is going to be the normal way that it always is, unfortunately, and maybe next week I'll have something set up. Bandita is sleeping in the other room, so we do not have the camera on right now. Here, I'm gonna finish doing the other... The thing I was trying to set up would essentially, if people did !Q and then had text after it, it was supposed to save the question to an external TXT file so that I could keep track of questions that way, and I could not get it to work. So it just is what it is. We are at where we are at, and actually I have a bot like working now. The bot technically does work, and I'm actually kind of wondering, there's a separate chat log for the chat bot, and I'm gonna keep track of that, and I wonder if that actually will just allow me to scroll back farther. And that might, I would love it if I could have a way to only highlight questions that didn't necessitate somebody doing a super chat. So we're just gonna go with what we're gonna go with. All right, I have like, oh my god, this took me so long. I'm gonna finish eating my snack and then we're gonna get into it. So 1 second. All right. So now I have the rest of my pita and, actually this is a tortilla, this isn't pita. Hummus and tortilla, because that's a great little struggle meal to have. So tortilla ASMR, I suppose. Oh, thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. I'm really hoping... It's just hard. I can't test anything unless I'm live on YouTube, so I don't know. Thank you all so much for being here, despite... I guess it wasn't really technical difficulties, but you did have to tolerate me doing something weird in the chat for like 20 minutes that you probably didn't know what was going on. So thank you, Sean, for the memberships. With that being said, that's a good time to do my little intro spiel. So welcome, everybody. These are my weekly Friday Q&A live streams. We go live every Friday around 6 p.m. Pacific time, and we answer y'all's questions. We have a couple of things you need to know if you want to participate. So first of all, this is an 18+ only chat because we talk about generally adult topics on here. We talk about dating and relationships and sex and kink and polyamory and things that I am communicating to adults about. I am not qualified to teach children who are not mine about these topics. So if you are a minor, if you are 16 or 17 or under, anything like that, please do not be here. Please do not participate in the chat, because that is for my safety, your safety, everyone's safety, because I'm not a professional and I am just not qualified to answer those questions directly from children, so I don't. You also can read our rules and FAQ down below. It's very simple. Basically, don't spam the chat, listen to me and the mods, and be polite. So by spamming the chat, I mean, like, don't literally repeat the same thing over and over again in chat. Don't spam the same question every 2 minutes. I answer questions in the order they come in, so please, if you want to make sure I answer your question, ask it really early. Come into the stream early and ask your question even before we start is a really great thing to do. and then we can answer your question as we go along. I will also give people an opportunity, usually in the last like 10 or 15 minutes, to re-ask a question in case I did miss it, because YouTube, the way that it logs live stream chats, it doesn't allow me to scroll back and see all of the first chats that happen once we go past a certain point in the stream. So I end up losing kind of a lot of chat content that way, unfortunately. I'm trying some things out to maybe make that easier, but I just cannot get this chat thing to work for some reason. So we're gonna troubleshoot that after the stream is done today. Maybe actually I could do a private stream, and maybe I could test it that way, is maybe what I'll end up doing. So yeah, we will see about that. But yeah, that's basically what you need to know. I don't give advice about medical things. And in general, if I don't feel like answering something, if it goes outside of the boundaries of what I think I'm qualified to answer, or just maybe it's too personal or whatever, then I won't talk about it. But otherwise, you can ask about anything that you want. It could be kink related, poly related, dating related are probably the 3 most common things that we talk about, but it could be about whatever y'all want. And that is more or less what y'all need to know. Yeah. Well, Patreon should be asking for age confirmation, because I am an 18 plus. I am a not safe for work content creator. So it should have already been verifying that people were above 18 to subscribe to my Patreon. So that's not even something I'm really worried about. Although I will say I'm not going to talk about internet censorship or things like that. That just makes me, unless you are a fellow content creator, I am sure that you all have lots of lovely ideas and things that you want to share with me. Because this is literally what I do for my job and I'm thinking about it all day, every day, I don't think there's necessarily a lot that you can contribute other than stressing me out thinking about the unknowns in the future. So if you want to say, hey, we're here for you, that's great, but I don't want to talk about like internet censorship and things. Also accidental chewing ASMR. Oh, and here's our co-pilot. If you were here on Monday and Tuesday, you would have met her. This is Morabella. This is Princess Morabella. She is a capybara. She may also be a ballerina. Listen, she is a woman of many talents, okay? She is a princess. She is a ballerina. She is my co-pilot. And you will respect her. And I got her... Allosexual men are confusing to me. A grocery store worker gave this to me. And she's very cute. And I don't know why I was given her. I returned somebody's shopping cart that they left behind, like when you're doing a grocery pickup order and the grocery store person buys your groceries for you to do the checkout thing. They have a card they use. I returned that because I left it in one of my bags. And then they bought me this. And she's very cute. And I'm like, well... Is that flirting? I don't know. Maybe it was just them being nice. I hope it was just free and they didn't buy it with their own money. I'm hoping they work at the grocery store and then the person at customer service was like very thankful to me that I returned it, and maybe it was their idea. I don't know. But in any case, I now have a Princess Capybara plushie who is my co-pilot and like hangs out on my desk. And it's really nice. I can also balance her on my head. Which I think is a very, like, it's not a criteria you have to have for a stuffy, but I do feel like it improves the experience. So anyways, this is my co-pilot. Just got here, love your most recent video the most out of all of my videos ever. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I had a lot of fun making it. It was a fun time. I'm working on I realized, okay. Before I get into some questions, I will just do a little ranty rant for a moment here. I realized I was going back through my videos and I was like, well, like, what have I not talked about yet? And there's like topics that I swear I just assume I have covered in the last like 9 years of making content. And I apparently have not talked about submissive training. And I apparently have not talked about punishments in 4 years. I have a couple of videos about punishments, but they're older, and I'm like, okay, that's long enough. New experiences, new ideas, new ways of approaching DS. So we're going to be doing some like classic all-timer. We're going to talk about submissive upcoming videos. We're going to be talking about the concept of submissives have all the power. We're going to be talking about training as a submissive. We're going to talk about live-in DS dynamics, and we're going to talk about punishments. and like how to approach punishments and like different ways of thinking about it. And kind of maybe an addendum to that will be not just a like punishment, but then like building in like enforcement systems in your DS relationship. So we've got, hopefully we're going to do a nice little series here focusing on power exchange for, I don't know, maybe the month of September will just be power exchange month informally on my channel. I don't know. But it's something that I haven't gotten to do before. Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice. I was too busy thinking about stuff. RTX123 has gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you. Welcome to all our new members. We do have memberships here on YouTube. They are 99 cents each because that is as cheap as I can literally make them. And when you become a member, you not only get a cute little Pomeranian next to your name as a badge, but you also get access to all of our beautiful emotes, which for some reason, where are they? Oh, I can't. Wait, why am I chatting as my bot? I should be chatting as me. Oh, here, does YouTube think I'm logged into my bot account right now? And not me? Well, then I don't have access. For my bot account actually doesn't have access to the emotes, so I can't actually use them as a demonstration, but I have moderator privileges, so I can still moderate from my YouTube chat. But yeah, that is what y'all need to know about all of that. That's what's coming down the pipeline for new content. And let's get into some questions. So I'm going to go and I'm actually going to use our chat here. And also thank you to all of our other mods. I read too much about you on Fat Life and now I feel weird. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I am more, and my partners will post more about me on Fat Life than I do on my other social media. So be my friend on Fat Life at your own peril if you wish to not hear about personal stuff that I'm doing. Can we have a capybara emote? Listen, I will, if we unlock, I'll maybe have, I think I have to have a certain number of members. I think I have the maximum number of emotes that I can have for the current number of YouTube members I have. But if I'll look up what it is to be able to unlock another additional emote. And then I'll set that as a stream goal to have a certain number of YouTube members. And then when we reach that, I will have someone make a capybara emote. How about that? Yes, and Carol says the $10 best mods. Yes, the mods are great. Best tape for gag. Depends on what you want to use it for. I feel like the best all-around option for a tape gag is probably silver bondage tape, because it has the look of duct tape, which some people are really into, but it's not gonna like peel the skin off your lips the way that actual duct tape will. So bondage tape is normally a recommendation. Although pro tip, if you do want to do a regular, like a silvery, I just forgot the word, masking tape, like the silvery masking tape. If you want to use that for a gag, actually, if you build up like kind of spit around your lips before it gets applied, and then it gets applied over your lips, it's gonna kind of remove the adhesive a little bit around where your lips are, and it's gonna make it easier to remove. It'll still give you a free mustache wax when you remove it, if you're not shaved. And it's still, you'll taste the adhesive and it's not great. A lot of reasons you like bondage tape is the better option there is, you know, consuming massive amounts of adhesive, probably not good for you. Having that level of exfoliation from adhesive, probably also not good for you. A lot of people also are sensitive to having that kind of adhesive on their skin. It can actually cause like longer lasting irritation, and having like irritated red mouth area, really obvious, hard to cover up, uncomfortable. So that's probably my option for if I'm going to do a tape gag. I'm going to probably do something with bondage tape, although that's not really my favorite in general. I don't really like tape for gags. I either prefer, my favorite is a bandana. I like a bandana or like a tea towel, a tenagui, or rope. Those are my, if I'm going to have a gag in, those are going to be my top options. I like a ball gag. I have a really actually nice, a ball gag with kind of like a mask cover over it that's like, it's leather from, and this is the name, Bitches Love Leather. They're very good. I love what they make. And that I like as well, because I feel like with my jaw proportions, a regular ball gag does not necessarily look super flattering. Like, I feel like it makes my chin look really short. But if I'm gonna have a ball gag in, I do like that. But otherwise, I like bandana, I like rope. Those are my top options. Egg, you disappointed me. You weren't sorry, Egg, I'm calling you out. I'm gonna scramble you, Egg. Egg, you weren't on the Monday stream. Egg, we missed you. Yeah. Anyways, you did make the gaming stream due to egg-related reasons. All right, you're allowed to, maybe, okay. If it was egg-related reasons, that's acceptable. I understand. All right. You get one free pass, Egg. All right. So, we got to do the Vaseline on the lips. Yeah. I just feel like spit is just like, you're gonna have that on hand all the time. Gotta remember to pack the Vaseline. Oh, I'm genuinely sobbing having missed it. Oh, Egg, I'm sorry. I don't like it when no eggs. No, I don't want you to don't do a Humpty Dumpty, okay? There'll be no Humpty Dumpty Egg on the stream. We'll be streaming next Monday. I'm really loving Claire Obscure, by the way. If you guys don't know, on Monday, we stream on Twitch. And right now we're streaming Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and it's really fun. I like it. I like that it frustrates me a little bit because I am a masochist. Yes. Oh, thank you, Sean. I appreciate the super chats. All right, so that's the gag question. There's so many different types of gags. There's just so many. Hard to pick a favorite. All right, there's a lot of, sorry, I'm like looking at questions and a lot of them are like literally just me. I got a paper and pencil ready for notes. Heck yeah. My first time, what should I expect? Well, I rant about things. I drink from a giant water bottle that currently is filled with pear flavor electrolytes. It says it was pear flavored. It honestly tastes more like cotton candy. Which, like, how do you mix up pear and cotton candy flavor? I don't know. Like, it has a little bit of that, like, pear je ne sais quoi to it. But, it's so it's like cotton candy pear, as opposed to just, like, juicy, sugary pear, as opposed to straight fresh pear. If that in any way makes sense. Not a cooked pear, a fresh pear, but sugary. Like, if you put sugar on top of or just a slice of, like, I don't know, Danju pear or whatever, the, like, really sweet ones are. But that, and then people ask questions, and we answer them, and we have a fun time. And also people contribute their own thoughts and perspectives in the chat, because I don't know everything about everything. Like, I don't know what it's like to be a pro-dom or a male submissive or anything like that. So people also offer their own opinions, too, to questions, and we hopefully, just through trial and error, end up finding something that hopefully will be helpful as an answer. Oh, no worries, Sean. I appreciate it. Thank you. You are always welcome here on the stream. Good evening. Just popping in for a sec to let everyone know my computer has finally bit the big one. Oh, no. And I can't type fast enough on my phone to not make it frustrating me to chat. Oh, I'm so sorry, Lexi. I will message you later. I might be able to help with that, but I hope you're doing okay, and I'm very sorry about your computer. It does suck, especially if it's like something you really need. It just sucks. Audrey asks, what is your best advice for getting back into the submissive mindset after life has gotten in the way? I'm in a 24/7 sub-dom relationship, for context. Audrey, this is one of my favorite questions. I'm not going to say this is like inevitable, but just like in vanilla relationships, there's always like a honeymoon period. And you might not even realize you're in a honeymoon period where like the first year or 2 years, you're really focused on the relationship because it's new and it's exciting and you're still really learning each other. And it's always easy to like make time for it, or it's easier than it would be if that same relationship had been around for like 10 years and you were, doing stuff together. The first couple years, easy to make things happen. That novelty, that like new car smell for relationships is still there. So when that eventually wears off, either because of sudden life events or just kind of the slow degradation of time, like you've been in a relationship for 5 years, it's going to feel different than like the first 6 months you were in a relationship. That is just part of it. That's just how life goes. But when you are, I just like had a thought, I'll maybe save it for later. But what I think the best thing to do is like when you reach this point and you're like, I'm out of my submissive mindset, what do I do? I think there's like a couple tools that you can use. Number one is, I think, like, don't pressure yourself to keep going through the motions of what you're already doing. Like if you have a whole rule book and you've got like 10 or 15 rules and you're following them, but they just feel like busy work and they're not serving you anymore, that's an indication that it's time to slow down and check in. So what I would do is I'd sit down, I would look at all of your rules, and I would really ask yourself, probably individually, both you as this S-type and then your D-type partner, both of you look at your rules and think, like what, for the ones that are still kind of working for me, what about them is working for me? What is the kernel underneath this that's like really serving me in my relationship, that's drawing me in, versus the ones that aren't working anymore? So maybe you have a lot of rules that are very like ritualized, and you know, you do like you kneel in front of your partner and in the morning you recite this like devotion to them, and like at first that was really exciting and now it like doesn't do anything for you anymore, and it feels like, I don't know, being forced to pray at church as a child or something. That's like actually kind of negative for you. That, maybe we just leave that one on the side for now. But maybe you have a dynamic where maybe you and your partner live together, and every morning you like brush your teeth together, and they like watch you while you are brushing your teeth, and you know, while you're doing that, they tell you what a good job you're doing, and then they remind you to like, okay, you know, time to spit out the toothpaste, and they hand you the mouthwash, and like, you know, they're doing the whole thing. They're helping you take care of your dental health in the morning, and you're like, you know what, actually I still really like that. And even if it feels rote right now, the kernel underneath that I find appealing is like the caretaking aspect of it. And so maybe the more ritualized kind of high protocol part of DS is not really serving us at this moment, which doesn't mean that it was wrong or not for you, just means that like right now it's not working for you. But the caretaking aspect is still really appealing. So, okay, that we know that, at least for me, the caretaking aspect is important and is still something that I am connected to and want to keep happening. So what can we do? What's like the single most basic thing that we could do that we can keep going, that we can then build from? Maybe it's keeping the toothbrushing thing. Maybe it's a new thing you haven't tried before. Maybe it's like monitoring water intake, or maybe doing like meal prep stuff together, or maybe you do like a check-in at work about like how your day is going, or something like that like from either previous experience or just to add something in new. You maybe stick to, ideally, like if it's really like we're in burnout mode and this is like our relationship maybe isn't going to survive this, I would go all the way back to like one thing. But if it's like, you know what, things are going well otherwise, but the magic isn't there anymore, I would strip back to maybe like 2 or 3 and really focus on doing those intentionally and seeing how those work out for you longer term. Like identifying those core things that are the most appealing to you that are still working, and then also your partner coming in too, because maybe for them, maybe the caretaking stuff isn't really working so much, but maybe they're more into like you providing service, and you try to find those intersections where you can kind of both like get your needs met through the way that you have it operating for right now, if that makes sense. And then beyond that, for getting back into your headspace and having things be less rote, this is actually why I approach wearing collars the way that I do now. I know lots of people that like wearing collars 24/7, and they like having like a locked thing on them, like on their neck all the time, and that really works for them. For me, what I found is that doesn't really work. Like, I like the concept of it. I like the idea of wearing something from one of my partners all the time, but it doesn't have to be a collar. And in fact, the fact it is a collar degrades the idea of what collars can do for my headspace. So instead of wearing a collar 24/7, what I found is that I prefer to have intentional collar time where at the beginning of like a play session or the beginning of like a long weekend or something, the collar comes on and that's a marker of like, now we're getting into a submissive headspace. So maybe it could be like reevaluating the way that you wear collars and having more intentional time set up to wear them. Or it could be other things too, like building cognitive associations between things like smell, what you're wearing, how you even have your hair done, and submissive activities works both ways. So putting on those things, getting prepared with those things can help trigger a submissive mindset changeover from everyday life. And then when you're in a submissive headspace while doing those things or wearing those things, it helps strengthen that connection at the same time. So maybe instead of wearing a 24/7 collar, maybe what you do instead is you have like, maybe on the weekends or maybe, when you get home from work in the evening or maybe before scenes, you have time where your partner puts your hair up in a ponytail, puts your collar on. Maybe they have an outfit laid out for you to wear, like a piece of clothing for you to wear. They order you to put that on, and then when it's all done, maybe they like kiss your forehead or go nose to nose with you, or maybe they give you a command. Maybe you don't want physical contact. Maybe they ask you to kneel for them, and they say like, thank you for your service, pet, or something along those lines that works with your dynamic that goes with whatever titles you use and like kind of the flavor of how you approach things. And so like that is creating a marker of like, okay, now like the submissive time is starting up once again. And ideally it should be different than what you've done before. And then focus on doing activities that you really enjoy doing, that you both like still, whether it's like rope bondage or impact play or being ordered to clean something. Also, just like trying new things you haven't done before together at all, but that sound interesting is always good. So like maybe revisiting a yes, no, maybe checklist, or revisiting maybe fantasy concepts and going, oh yeah, we never got to try like a damsel in distress flavored scene. Or, I've always been curious about pet play, but I haven't tried it yet. Like going to those things and saying, oh, okay, maybe those things, and we try them, maybe that gives us a new direction to go in, maybe that gives us like a new spark to be enthusiastic about what we're doing. And I also say a lot of people feel pressure to like do scenes really regularly or to play a certain number of times, or they think that like when you're in a DS relationship that's like 24/7 and live-in, you're gonna feel like actively really submissive all the time. And some people, especially for like really high level DS, or maybe they have like a shaved head, they've got like a ton of like body piercings their partner's given them, they're in like 24/7 chastity, like they're doing something really, really high level continual all the time, they might feel submissive all the time. But even, I think then, there is just naturally going to be a slide into a feeling of normalcy, no matter what it really is. So, if you're sliding into a feeling of normalcy, that's okay. If you want that feeling of newness, there's ways to kind of reinvent it and feel new again. But there's a difference between settling into a comfortable rhythm where things still feel positive. Like, it's almost like having a gym routine. Like, the first, couple weeks you go to a gym, it's going to feel really hard. You're going to have to think about it really hard because it's a new thing. And then after you've been going to the gym for, 6 months, it's habit. But you're still going, you're still working out, and you're still aware of everything that you're doing because you have to be, because you're lifting heavy stuff and running and all of that's going to be actively in your brain. But it doesn't feel as difficult, and it's not as mentally preoccupying as it was at first. And the same thing can also apply, especially to live in 24/7 DS. And I think the slide into a normalcy in DS where, of course I just call them sir or ma'am. Of course I just think about them as my dominant. If it's getting to that point, that might actually be a desirable state to reach for some people, but you're not necessarily, actively being wow, this feels super kinky all the time, because, that's just not sustainable. It's just not, for any relationship, it's not sustainable. Thank you for this. Thank you for service triggers the wrong sort of associations for me. LOL. I'd be worried about stolen valor. Yeah, fair. I guess not thank you for your service, but thank you for serving me or something maybe is better. I do have a P.O. box. The address is listed in the very bottom of my description boxes for all of my videos. So yes, I do have a description box. Not gonna lie, watching a partner brushing her teeth sounds adorable. Oh yeah, no, it's littles, ABDLs, even just caregiving stuff in general. Like, you know, dogs can't brush their own teeth. I think it's positive. All right, I'm taking a snack break between questions here, but hopefully that gives you some ideas of what to work with, Audrey. Actually, with the bot, can I see? If I scroll up, can I see people's, oh. Oh, actually, I missed some earlier questions because the bot wasn't connected yet. All right, well, I'm not sure if Audrey had any follow-ups there, but I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so there's some other questions I missed earlier, so I'm going to go back to those real quick. One is from Matthew. And Matthew says, happy Friday. So I have a question as a more gentle / soft dom. Another topic we're going to be revisiting. I'm going to be doing new videos on both gentle and soft dominant / soft femdom. And I'm also going to be doing a video on pleasure dominance too. So those are also going to be in the pipeline. But continuing on. As a more gentle / soft dom with a partner who has rejection sensitivity, what are some helpful training or punishments that might be worth looking into? That is a really good question. And I am glad that you want to work with your partner on this. So for people who don't know, there is something that is a common feature of especially ADHD, but I'm assuming also other forms of neurodivergence, called rejection-sensitive dysphoria. And it's something that makes it so feeling rejected by somebody, even just perceived rejection instead of actual rejection, is like incredibly painful and like almost intolerably uncomfortable for people. And I've had partners that have this issue in the past, less so these days, but like, you know, I have experience dealing with, at least as the partner of somebody with this. And I feel like I'm not, okay, so time out to just remind people, this is not medical advice. I don't know, like, clinically what the advice for coping with rejection-sensitive dysphoria is. This might not be like clinically relevant. This might not be what's advised by doctors. So please, if you're seeing a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a mental health professional, check in with them. Say, hey, I want to help my partner with this. I have an idea. Would this work? That's always a great thing to do. But just based on my experience, what I have found to be helpful is praise Kink. Like being really affirming, and not only you being affirming verbally and physically, but having them be affirming towards themselves, I think is also an important aspect of this. So giving your partner, I guess it also depends on kind of what is sparking the rejection sensitivity. So I think maybe actually step one should be like, can you clearly define and work together to define what's causing episodes of that to crop up? Like, are you polyamorous? Is it you going on dates? Is it you playing with other people? Is it you, like, saying no to scenes, or, like, not being available for a phone call, or, like, not texting back quickly enough? Because all those things maybe would have different approaches. I think, generally speaking, and whenever we're trying to do behavior modification, it'll always work better the more specific we are about the thing it's trying to target. So if it's, you know, generally trying to work with like self-esteem is a lot harder than like, I want to help my partner feel more confident about this one specific aspect of their body or their one specific aspect of their appearance. So narrowing it down into what you think is going to be the most specific of what you're dealing with is going to be good. And then I actually probably wouldn't do punishments for this. Now, if your partner is like really highly motivated, maybe they like got like a spanking fetish, maybe They do really, really well with corporal discipline. That kind of role play is like their thing. Okay, maybe yes. But I actually probably would avoid punishments for this. And instead, I would focus on positive reinforcement and training and praise for doing correct behavior as opposed to punishing unwanted behavior, in my personal opinion, for this specific issue. So I would look at maybe doing something where if you're doing an activity, like maybe it's you doing something, that you have them do something for themselves as a self-reassurance thing. Like maybe you have them like repeat some kind of affirming mantra. Like maybe like if you're not available over text message, maybe you don't get back to them within like 10 minutes. They start to have, like, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic. I don't know if that's what it is. But if you're still in the chat, please let me know specifics, and we can work through specifics together if you would like. But I'm giving that as an example. You would set up something to where you have your partner maybe like have a ritualistic phrase that they're always gonna like respond to you with, and then can repeat for themselves. And maybe they like record themselves doing this. Maybe if you're on a chat service that supports like video recordings or voice recordings, maybe you have a standing order that when they're feeling rejected because you're not available over phone call or text message or something, that they record themselves like kneeling and quietly repeating a mantra to themselves. Or maybe if it's not an appropriate place to do that, maybe you have a secondary thing where maybe they like type something out, or maybe they write something down on a piece of paper, where maybe you have them say something like, I know that I am still like valuable and desirable just the way that I am. Again, tailoring it to be as specific as you can based on what the sensitivity for them feels like and what's triggering that feeling. But I think giving them standing orders to where, especially if it's something about rejection around you not being available for something, giving them something that they know they can do that is pleasing to you, that reinforces your relationship, I think could help mitigate the sensitivity around like lack of availability or you not saying yes to certain things or whatever it is. So if maybe it's something like, you know, I just had an idea in my head of like what this would look like more specifically, of like a standing order for something. And then I think you, when you are available, when you can reconnect with them, being honest with, but also unrestrained with the praise, I think is good. Like really acknowledging, you know, thank you so much for being patient when I wasn't available. I really appreciate that you took this time to follow through on your orders to me. I can see that you're trying really hard. Be very direct and specific with the thank yous and the praise, and reminding them that they are good and worthy and valuable, and that you like them. If you love them, say that you love them. Whatever would be reinforcing to that dynamic that involves praise, whether they're a good girl, a good boy, a good pet, whatever. And just every single time that they can act along with the orders that you've given them, and they're demonstrating to you that they're putting an effort to overcome this sensitivity, give them praise. Even if it's just a really like short little thing, even if it's just them saying like, you know, acknowledging verbally, hey, I'm feeling rejected right now, and I'm noticing that's happening in my body. That's a moment for you to then reinforce that bodily awareness of like, thank you so much for telling me. I really like value that you're taking the time to be able to do this. You're, you know, such a devoted sub, and I love that about you. For more details for my question, my partner does have a spanking and a praise kink. It does connect to my availabilities. This is a great deal of help. Thank you. Yeah. And I hopefully, like, especially if they can, you know, something that they can record and send to you, I think would be really good. Something that kind of keeps them a little bit preoccupied, and because it's about feeling connected. Like, maybe I should explain why I think this works is, if you're not available, part of the feeling rejected is feeling disconnected from you, right? Like, oh, you're not here, and ooh, that makes me like, that's uncomfortable, feeling my partner isn't present with me when I want their attention, or when I need their attention, I want time from them. So by doing something that they know is something that you want them to do, that's maintaining a connection even when you're not directly available presently in that moment. So yeah, those are kind of my general ideas, but you could riff on that a million different ways. And if they happen to like things like spanking and they have a praise kink, you could set up a reward dynamic where if they follow out on these orders that you're giving them to do certain behaviors, maybe a reward for that is, maybe you commit to, doing a spanking when you get home or when you're available, or maybe you do like a session remotely over the phone. Maybe you do something in person when you have time together that's like special and fun for them. That's like, I'm recognizing that you want connection, and this is the way in which I'm available to be able to make that happen. I would think that punishment has more whimsy or lightness about it, the act, rather than enjoyment. I think it depends. I think, like, psychologically, how people perceive punishment is sort of different person to person, so I don't know for sure. But yeah, thank you for the additional information, Matthew. And then I think generally looking at it just like resources for rejection sensitivity and kink. Actually, have I seen someone teach a class about this? I feel like I have a vague memory of somebody like teaching something like this. My partner is 100% a brat who loves being put in her place, but she's also going to grumble / pout about it the whole way. It's so funny and it warms my yolk-filled heart. That's adorable. I love it. Aw, thank you. Thank you, Daily Dose of Joseph. I don't usually come by the streams, but wanted to say hi. Hello, welcome. I recently introduced her to your channel. We were both vaguely interested in BDSM topics, but your last couple of videos especially have inspired her. I appreciate how informative you are, and she's loving it too. Oh, that's so great. Thank you. I love that. I love introducing people to kink and new ways of doing it. And again, good question, Matthew, if you have anything else. There we go. Oh, I should have clarified that is my conception distinct from punishment in S&M. Yeah, fair, yeah. Speaking of ADHD, one of my partners has forgotten that I'm streaming again. That's like the most... Oh gosh, I love all the humans in my life, and I love how all of their brains work, but it'll never not be funny to me that like one of them always forgets that I'm streaming every single stream. And they take turns. My stream times can be in their calendar on their phones, and they always forget at least one every week, and it's very cute, and I love it. All right. The gunship shirt is sick, thanks. It's got cat girls on it. It's a good music video. Hello, welcome. Oh, thank you for the stream gifts. Thank you, N8. Thank you. We got 10 memberships. Wow. We are flush with memberships. That's so exciting. Thank you. And welcome to all the new members who now have access to our wonderful, adorable emotes. All right. I know there was a really early one that was from, I want to try and find it again. 1 second. I think it was from Say Doll. Yes, okay, I think I found it. May not be here to actually watch, but I'd be curious if you have opinions about the BookCon Sinners and Stardust, which, as a content warning for people in the chat right now, this apparently involves SA and harassment stuff and like sexual harassment, so maybe possibly brief discussion of that for the next couple minutes. Also just wondering, because I've seen some book channels talk about it and say things like, oh, these people mistook it for a kink con. And what? And kink cons allow SA/harassment? Oh my, Say Doll, if you can tell me what channels have said that, I would love to know, because I would love to directly respond to that, because that is crazy work. I don't know if you're still on the stream to be able to hear this or not, but that is wow. I don't okay. So I don't do. Let me see. Actually, I'll look and see if. I'm not sure my question was caught before. I don't want to over ask. Oh yeah, no, I did see it. Thank you. I just had to. I was kind of scrolling backwards for a minute. So for people who don't know, I briefly saw this on Twitter earlier this week. And I wasn't sure, like, what the details of it were. My understanding, based on, like, having not really looked into this any level of detail beyond what I saw on social media, is that there was a, like, romantasy, you know, I don't know if it's actually erotica or if it's, like the line between romance and erotica is a pretty thin line. I'm not sure how they would define the difference, but it was some kind of romantasy romance book convention, which have blown up in recent years. And I guess at this particular one, there were pretty systemic issues with women treating authors and entertainers inappropriately, like cornering people, touching them without permission, leering at them underneath bathroom stalls. I think somebody may have even been, like, lured into a hotel room. Like, there was some pretty, like, nasty stuff that was happening. Like some egregious behavior. And honestly, my working theory for that is you have a vanilla population that is not generally educated about consent. I don't know what the average age of an attendee for a romance book convention is. I'm going to guess it's somewhere between the mid-30s and the mid-50s. So that's generally a generation that doesn't have a lot of good consent ed coming from school or from family or from anywhere, media consumption, anything. You have that. A lot of them are in, again, vanilla monogamous relationships in which consent and open communication are not the norm, is not part of the standard. Then they get into romantasy books and romance books, and those also do not have explicit consent in them, generally. Even today, there's a lot of very popular tropes around, like, non-con or dub-con, or you can imagine what I mean by those, right? Like, sort of the vanilla equivalent of CNC, sans the first C in a lot of cases. Where the princess gets really drunk at the ball and then her enemy, like, kisses her and does this and that, outside by the fountain, outside the ballroom. But, she has an orgasm and she really likes it. So therefore it must somehow actually be consensual. A lot of confusion between pleasure and consent in romance novels, unfortunately. So you have all of that all brewing together, and then you put people in an environment where they're around a bunch of other people who also don't have any real backing in consent, other than maybe sort of a hand-wavy, check the box, like, you need to get consent before you do things kind of deal, which is usually not good enough because, like, what does consent look like? What does saying no look like? How should you approach people that are here as entertainers? And they're not very good at handling that, evidently, in all cases. So there's just, like, lack of consent education and demonstration of what affirmative consent looks like happens at all layers of life, and then it boils over into this con environment that, like, usually from my understanding involves, like, a lot of, like, spiciness. Also, I have to be entirely honest, I'm not a fan of, like, romantasy culture, maybe I would say, and maybe that's a misconception on my part, but every single time I have ever heard or seen anything about it, it's both weirdly kink phobic, and then doesn't facilitate or demonstrate good consent practices, and then at conventions, it's a sexually charged environment, but sort of like in a vanilla bachelorette party kind of way, like, oh, we're giving, if you go to this talk from this one really big author, we're, like, giving away vibrators because this convention is sponsored by Lilo or whatever the fuck. Yeah, and you get that happening. You get people maybe, drinking and all of that, and then suddenly they're, touching the jugglers, at the ball, inappropriately and asking them to take their pants off or wanting to see how big their dick is or whatever the fuck. And honestly, I had an inkling that this was probably something like this was going to happen, because there was a pretty viral TikTok like over a year ago now, I think, of a bunch of women that were at a romance book convention. The fire alarms went off, and there was a firefighter squad that came in to look into the situation, and they came into one of the ballroom areas, and all of the women in the room started wolf whistling at these men, and people treated it like, ooh, like, I bet they loved getting all the attention. You know, my husband's a firefighter and I would do this to him and blah, blah, blah. And like, I didn't really see anyone have a problem with it. Of like, you're technically sexually harassing somebody at their workplace. If a firefighter is coming into your building to take care of an alarm, and you and approximately 200 other women in a room start wolf whistling at them and saying, hey boys, and yada yada, like, again, I hate doing this, but just to like make the point really crystal clear, if we had flipped roles around, and let's say this was a tabletop, a magic convention. Let's say this was an MTG tournament, and something went wrong, and, you know, maybe the front of house management had to come into the building, and it was a team of young women that had walked through the door. And they were dressed professionally in their uniforms, and if all of the men at the MTG convention started to wolf whistle and say, hey ladies, at all of the women who were just there to do their fucking jobs to, like, I don't know, check the PA system or something, like, we would all very rapidly identify that as being inappropriate, right? But suddenly, it's a man in a room full of cishet women, and it's fine to oogle and ogle them and treat them like they're there for your entertainment and not to, like, do their fucking job. Anyways, that shit pisses me off. So I'm not surprised at all. I'm apparently passionate about this, that I probably should make a video about this at this point. But I don't know. I don't know when I'm gonna have time to look into it. Maybe it probably won't be this week. Maybe next week. I'll do a video about it because I want to have time to like look into it appropriately and collect clips. All right, brief break to have a little tortilla. What will be the Romantasy con equivalent of the unfortunately necessary cosplay is not consent posters? I guess, I don't know. Being at the convention is not consent, I imagine, because they apparently were indiscriminate with anybody who was not a fellow attendee at this event. Like, if you were working there, if you were an author, if you were staff, you were all liable to be hurt by somebody there. And thank you, Sean. I do see both of your chats and Twixie's chat as well. And Twixie says, I'll read this one first because it's along the lines of what we were just talking about. I do wonder how much of this is caused by the idea that firefighters are sex work adjacent through sexy firefighter calendar shoots. Not an excuse, maybe a reason. I mean, I could see that, again, especially in a con environment where people are kind of reinforcing each other. Like, I don't think those women individually would have, if they were in a hotel lobby alone and a firefighter team walked in, I don't think those women would have individually sexually harassed the firefighters. It was the group dynamic of, in the setting of it being a Romantasy book convention where they're talking about, you know, sexy police officers and hockey players and football players and all the like, because kind of, you know, ooh, this is just like in one of my romance novels. Yeah, kind of making the situation way worse. But I think specifically with it being firefighters as well, I'm sure contributed to it because of the association of, like, you know, Magic Mike, sexy firefighter, male stripper stuff. Oh yeah, they put an air tag on someone. Yeah, what the fuck? That's crazy. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask if there was like specific channels that were like claiming that there were people mistaking, like, they mistook it for like a kink con. It's the current channels that are talking about Sinners and Stardust right now. I can't think of their names. Gotcha. Okay. I'll probably want to get at least sort of like, I don't know, general book talks opinion about what's happening, just to be like, this is how people are talking about it. But just to make it absolutely clear, so you guys don't have to wait for a video for this. Sexual assault or putting a fucking air tag on someone is absolutely not acceptable at a kink convention. You know, there are a lot of people who go to kink conventions. You get 2,000 plus people in a ballroom. Just based on sheer numbers, there's going to be at least probably one or two bad actors who will not behave appropriately in that setting, despite knowing what the rules are. But at kink conventions, like I have been to many different kinds of conventions. I feel safer at a kink convention than I do at a gaming convention. Or at a goth convention, or anything like that. Or especially a fucking anime convention, holy shit. I feel the safest at a kink convention because we generally as a community have a culture of consent that gets talked about pretty profusely. A lot of conventions have orientations. They have dungeon monitors and people generally around, like safety teams, that are watching all of the time to make sure that people are listening to the rules. And they have very clear upfront guidelines about if you do this kind of behavior, you will get kicked out and you will be banned from the event depending on what the behavior itself is. And I don't have a lot of personal experience with this, but I definitely have known people that have had to go to conventions with people that are like past abusers of theirs, or people that maybe they're not on good terms with. They've been afraid ahead of time, hey, I'm going to potentially have to share like pretty intimate, vulnerable space with somebody who has abused me in the past. And they will talk to the consent incident team and they will notify them, and they'll say if they have a restraining order, if they have something else in place, they can help make sure that that's not being violated. Or they can at least be aware, so if something does happen, they can act on it immediately as soon as something does cross a boundary that gets set. Like, if a consent response team knows that you've told someone, do not approach me at this event, do not talk to me, and then they do, the consent team can say, hey, we know, because we've been told that you were told not to do this, so now we're going to take you aside and we're going to have a little conversation, and we're going to probably ask you to leave. Whereas that kind of thing is absolutely not in place in basically any other convention space. So I generally feel a lot safer at that, but no, absolutely consent violations and SA. Maybe, and I wonder what they mean by that. Like, have they been to a kink convention that just went real fucking sideways that I've never heard of before? Because kink conventions are not a touch any stranger you want free-for-all experience any old time of day. There are, at some conventions, some specific venues and some specific events within that convention that allow you to touch strangers in a certain capacity within certain limits for a discrete amount of time. But that is not, kink conventions are not like, fuck anything that bends over. Like, or touch anyone that you want. Maybe at like a sex expo, I could see maybe at like, not saying that it would be allowed, but maybe that kind of thing would end up being kind of more common because you're mixing people that are industry professionals with fans who don't really have a basis of consent. Maybe at like one of the like porn conventions, I could maybe see that being more likely to happen, but definitely not at a kink convention. And like, do assaults happen at kink conventions? Yes. Does harassment happen at kink conventions? Also yes. But it's not normalized. And if you were at a kink convention and you were caught doing any of these things, you would get banned immediately. Like, it would not be a, oopsie, we don't even have a way to deal with this, and we have to put out a statement. Like, it would be fucking dealt with already. I'm fairly deep into the dark romance genre, and I think in books, not at conventions, the dub/non-con is more accepted, as usually books are in the first person, so even if unspoken, the reader is aware that all characters consent to the completely unnegotiated situation, but they both want the same things, they know it because it's a book. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, like, we're taught how to handle consent by the media that we consume. And if there's never in any of these books ever an explicit conversation, everything is proven it's consensual by pleasure or implication, that's going to be a problem for then how people end up applying things on to their real life, because we cannot rely on people's critical thinking skills. And I'm sorry, this may be a little bit judgmental, but keep in mind there are people, a disturbing number of people, who believe that their AIs are alien gods that are telling them the secrets of how the universe works, and that the Earth is actually flat, and that they're a starseed or something. Like, that's a real thing that happens to people. Like, there's people who fall for cults. There's people who fall for, which maybe is an unkind way of phrasing it, but like, there are people that do not have the critical thinking ability to easily disentangle the idea of like how they practice consent around strangers in real life and like what they see in the books that they read and how consent is like ever represented to them. And I don't implicitly have a problem with like non-con or dub-con being a feature of books. It's just when that's the only thing that ever exists is somewhere on that spectrum, and we're not coming into those books with adequate consent education to begin with. Because I think it's one thing to read those books as like a sex positive person or a kinky person in the community where you've gotten the consent 101 and 201. Like you know about like not just like, you should ask before you do stuff, but like you understand about the precarities of relying on like nonverbal consent, and that pleasure orgasm is consent, or like this, that, and the other. That all goes together to create a robust understanding of what consent really looks like. When you're going into it without any of those skills and you think, wow, this is really hot, like you maybe can't pick apart that, oh, well, like in real life, if this thing exactly happened, it wouldn't be consensual, but it is in this context because I can presume that it is consensual by like context clues or something. But yeah. Some of the channels I watched and stopped because they said the Kink Con part. Taylor Rose, Jess Owens, Erica, and Meredith Novance. Don't send these people hate. I check my history. Oh, yeah. No. To be clear, I'm not trying to say that anyone should like, because I don't even know what they really said, right? Verbatim. So, to begin with, not that I'm not taking your word for it, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt to a certain extent. Never send anyone harassment. Never, just don't consume the content. Don't go watch the video. I want this information so that way, if I'm going to make the accusation that there are people that are misrepresenting the kink community, I want to make sure I have my ducks in a row and I can say either verbatim what they said or I can show clips to demonstrate what people are saying about this. Because, offloading this as being a kink issue is kind of crazy. Jess Owens sounds really familiar. Where have I seen that name before? Maybe I'm thinking of, okay, I'm just gonna at least like put one of these in like my watch later. Okay, so there's Jess Owens and Taylor Rose, her face looks familiar. Maybe I've seen it. Like, I don't really like, I'm not into like book talk stuff. So, a thing I've heard is also vanillans or kink uneducated people are also saying you're kink shaming if you point out consent is important for all parties. Jesus Christ. What level of hell are we currently on? What level of hell do we currently exist in where that's like the takeaway? Like, first of all, if you're not kinky, don't talk about kink shaming as a defense for other people's behavior when you don't know that they're kinky. Yeah, and then what was the oh, just Erica. Oh, maybe Erica's the one that's familiar. Anyways, I am kind of a I am kind of a hater. Oh, they have an AI thumbnail, so that's automatically gonna lose points with me personally. Yeah, and some of these are really small channels, so I probably won't mention them specifically, but like if it's a preponderance of people. Dark romance versus book talk culture. Who's really to blame here? Everyone. I think we're all to blame. It's all of our faults. I just feel like they probably got info from TikTok because I know TikTok pushes a lot of misinfo. Don't presume maliciousness personally. Oh yeah. All it takes is like one person on TikTok being like, yeah, but like, you know, at kink conventions, this kind of thing is normal. So maybe they just think that that's what this convention was a kink convention. And then none of them have ever been to a kink convention before, so they don't know. And then they go, well, somebody else said it, so it must be true. And then here we are, unfortunately. But yeah, consent's complicated, and I think, like, yeah, I don't know. I personally get, as the kids say, I get the ick from a lot of book talk stuff and like vanilla romance novels. Almost maybe because it feels like something from like an antiquated time period where like it's so tropey and like so many people are really just looking to reread the same book they've read 10 years ago. Like it's like a comfort thing. It's like, okay, sorry, I'm being really unflattering here, but this is just sort of my unfiltered, unprocessed opinions about it. But I think there's a large amount of dark romance consumption where like, yes, reading is technically good for you, but when you're kind of just passively reading something as like a pacification tool, like to self-soothe, and you don't really necessarily want to be challenged, and you're just like essentially using it as like, you know, you're revisiting the same porn clip you like 20 times in a row. Like you're not critically engaging with like, how would this application of consent apply in real life? Like you're just sort of in brain autopilot mode to like find the spicy bits that are titillating. Like you're not reading it the same way that you would a complex novel where you're appreciating the thematic elements and the storytelling and the plot and all of that. It's like a different viewing experience. It's like, you know, watching porn is not generally the same as watching like an Alfred Hitchcock movie, right? I mean, it would be funny to watch Alfred Hitchcock movie like it was a porn. Like, how would you even do that? I don't know. But yeah, you're just applying a different level of critical analysis to what you're consuming. And I think that is, if you're not critically engaging, then you're going to end up with maybe some perverse outcomes as a result of that. Not that I'm like, again, the problem isn't really just the books themselves or the porn or anything. It's that when, like, if somebody starts driving a car and they get into a car crash, it like, if they've never read how to drive a car before, that is the expected outcome of what will happen, right? If you don't know anything about how cars operate, you've never tested driving a car before, you've never theoretically learned about how driving a car works, and you get behind a wheel and you crash, of course what was going to happen, because you had no education to back that up. But if you have a driver's license and you intentionally drive recklessly without due regard for safety hazards or the rules of the road, then that is your fault because you weren't using your tools and your education as you needed to. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. Same thing as travel guides talking about what is acceptable or unacceptable in other cultures they aren't actually involved with. It takes some research and aggregation of info, vet credibility. Yeah, because a lot of things just get said by people where they have one experience somewhere and people go, oh, well, that's just true everywhere. And that's not actually usually what it is. But yeah, I will definitely be looking into this more because that's definitely concerning if people are using this as to talk about fucking kink shaming. Oh my god, we should not have allowed that to cross the Rubicon. We should not have allowed the phrase kink shaming to ever get off of the website of FetLife. That was definitely a mistake. Oh my god. Because, like, are any of these women even kinky? Like, that's a whole other question as well. Is like, does reading a romance novel mean you're kinky? If you're into, like, I don't know enough about what's in these novels, But if you're into the idea of like being taken, like I guess you can have like kink adjacent sexual interests but not be like kinky in a community member sense. And then like we don't have different words for it, but there's not like there is a distinction between member of the kink community and somebody who gets aroused by the idea of somebody tossing them onto a bed, you know? But we don't really have different labels for all that. That one did really blow up. Even making the strong argument for a liberal arts education. I mean, I am a strong believer in the power of liberal arts and interdisciplinary education. I'll tell you that much. Like, I benefit greatly from my academic background of having feet in both sides of the pond, as it were. And if people need to have critical analysis abilities and be able to read a text and think about it, and if they can't, then oh boy howdy. Unfortunately, if people are not getting education anywhere else, they're gonna make assumptions that maybe they shouldn't. But anyways, I've rambled about this one for a hot minute, so thank you, Saydoll, for giving me that information. I will be looking into that further. Probably won't be something that comes out like in the next week, but I'd say maybe like 2 weeks or so we'll have a conversation about it. Because I want to, there are a lot of 40-minute long videos about this topic I'm going to have to sort through, it looks like. So there we go. All right. So far, the Streamlabs chatbot is really working out for me for keeping a running log of those older first chats in the stream. So that at least is working out. But I know we had a super chat thing from Sean that we didn't get to yet. So, can my bot see super chats? Can my bot see super chat history? Oh, I'll probably just go. I'll just go to Sean's history. Yes, you're very welcome. Might be the difference between fantasies and kinks you do IRL. Yeah, I guess I imagine very few of them actually do any kink IRL. And honestly, maybe for the best. Maybe for the best that they're not inflicting this on other people. All right, I'm going to Sean's super chats. The newbie party is tomorrow night, and I'm finally bringing my toy bag instead of just my floggers. I don't know if the same practice bottom would be there, so I'm a little concerned about building a new trust. Any suggestions? Oh, so new practice bottom, new toys. Who's this? I mean, I think probably doing it the same way that you did the first time is fine. I mean, if they're there as a demo bottom, they know what they're getting into to a certain extent, which is I am willingly going to be hit by somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of practice doing this thing. But what I would consider to be a good practice for something like that would be to like just talk to them normally at first and say, hey, here's what's in my toy bag, here's what I know about it, like informing people of like what the toy is, if it's like stingy or thuddy or how intense you perceive it to be, how much practice you've had using it before, if any, like I've practiced using this on my pillow, or I have used this on other people, or I've used it on myself, or I just got this yesterday, so I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I'm excited to try it. Like give people information about what your level of knowledge with that particular implement is, and then you can ask them after that, like, are there any of these that you're like particularly curious about trying? Have you used any of these before? And then talking about where they want to be hit in the body, how intense they want to play. And then when you're actually in the moment, building up the trust, I think is going to be based on starting very low, very slow, and doing something like the number system to give an indication of where they're at pain-wise. Like, I want to practice using the number system. Would it be okay if, like, when I hit you, can you tell me what number we're at? And I'm going to aim to start at, like, a 1. And then you start at a 1. And you do that for a little bit. And they calibrate. Then maybe you aim for, like, a 3 or a 5 or a 6. And then I would maybe kind of aim for, like, the middle range. I probably wouldn't go higher than that unless the bottom is saying they really want that and you feel comfortable going there. But kind of just aim for the middle range, use it as an opportunity to practice calibrating to what somebody's individual pain tolerance is and what their sensitivity to certain types of sensation is. But I think just, having a conversation, being open and honest about your experience level and what you know about the toy that you're working with is gonna, like really be the bulk of it, because you're not really, like, if you're just practicing with a practice bottom, like, you're not really doing a full-on scene. Obviously follow whatever negotiation practice that the dungeon says that you need to do in terms of talking about, you know, safe words and aftercare, and you know, what kind of level of contact is okay, and all the basic stuff you would typically include regardless. But yeah, because you're not doing a full-on scene, I think just kind of treating it like the learning opportunity it is for both people, and then, you know, being thankful, being appreciative always pays well. And talk to the person if they're open to being praised, if they like, you know, being affirmed during a scene or after a scene, if they're okay being told that, like, you know, thanks for being so helpful, or like, I really liked working with you, like, you know, being complimentary. And I wouldn't necessarily add in like a power dynamic, like, title element to it, but maybe that's on the table as something you could possibly do. But yeah, building up a new trust, it's kind of the same every time. It's just treating somebody like a human being, going slowly, and then slowly incorporating more over time. Same thing goes with like emotional vulnerability, right? Not even just toys, but, you know, as you get to know someone, you don't start off, I mean, usually you don't start off by being like, and this is how terrible my childhood was, and here's all the trauma I have. Like, you work up to that. You build trust with smaller conversations about less risky behavior and less risky subjects. And then when you get comfortable with that, then you can move on to the next level of disclosure and terrace off of that as you go along. Basically like my Switch party last week. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that we have the Vlad the Impaler role player is back. Welcome. Always keeping me on my toes, that's for sure. All right. Oh, what is this? Interesting. Why is that highlighted? What is going on there? I know I got something from RTX that I wanted to highlight, and now I don't know how to do that. So I'm gonna go back to my other stream chat real quick. Oh, that got blanked out for a second here. Well, why does it say I have 9 viewers? That doesn't sound right at all. There is no way that that's correct. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. I just needed I don't know, got stuck loading something, I think. Ah, here we go. I need to pop out my chat again. Oh shoot, because I refreshed, I can't scroll back to see that thing. So, I'm here at my normal dilemma. But just quickly, because I saw this, I will get to it because it sparked an interesting thought for me. As Dark Moon asks, is there any reason to draw a line between activities being trained and those used for punishment? Hard training could be punishment, but the psychological implications give me pause. I mean, I think it's like, what do we mean by training? And those used for punishment. So I guess if we're talking about like physical pain as a training tool, like, people use punishment as a way of doing training because it is a form of reinforcement. It's a negative form that involves an unwanted stimulus being applied, but it is a tool for modifying behavior, which is what I would call training. Like, training is about modifying behavior and conditioning, both physical and mental conditioning. So punishment can be used for some people successfully as a training tool, either to primarily deter unwanted behavior, or to reinforce the power in the relationship, the idea that your partner has the ability to punish you, and therefore they are worthy of your respect and should be listened to. My problem with that as a training tool is it's like, it's like you've got a whole toolkit, right? And it's like you're only using one screwdriver to try to fix everything. And that screwdriver is not going to work for all applications. You need to have multiple sizes, multiple types. And so only ever using punishment as a tool, I think, doesn't work for most people. But as far as the psychological implications, that's a really big one. That's something that I've discovered in my experience of DS is, I think this is true for a lot of people, though it doesn't really get talked about, though I'm slowly trying to change that because I bring this up whenever I possibly can, is punishment doesn't work. In the sense of vanilla life behavior modification and conditioning vis-a-vis physical punishment, we definitively know that psychologically it does not work. It has some minor benefit of some people conforming slightly more, but the primary result of punishment tends to be psychological fear, damage to the connection to the relationship, and avoidance is what it causes. Typically, avoidance of being caught doing something. So if you're trying to use punishment as a tool for, somebody eating candy after dinner because they're eating too many sweets and they're trying to, reduce their sugar intake, if every single time you catch them doing that, you wrap their knuckles until they bleed, like, that's not really going to help them actually cut the sugar cravings. That's going to teach them they need to be better at hiding the behavior they're doing that's unwanted. And because it also damages and creates fear in the relationship, that can very quickly spread out from just the act that's happening in that moment into elsewhere in the relationship, especially scenes that involve pain in general, and further into the power exchange itself, which can be very corrosive to dynamics. Now, are there people that do punishment and it's successful and it works out fine and they kind of treat it as like I'm a penitent, like an old Christian worshiper, and I get flogged for my sins and I'm forgiven afterwards and it's fine. Like, sometimes it works for some people, but as a default mechanism, I think physical punishment doesn't necessarily work as well. And the other thing is if, let's say, for physical training, maybe you want to increase pain tolerance, but then you're also using that same kind of pain as a punishment because of the emotions associated and the fear associated with punishment that typically actually can lower your pain threshold because there's anxiety, anticipation, fear, and the knowledge of past experiences that it was unpleasant and unwanted and your body's resisting that experience happening. That typically makes pain stimuli harder to endure for people. So if you're using that punishment as something that you also want to train to increase your pain tolerance around, it's kind of like you're digging a hole and then you're filling it back in again as you're going along. Like, you're not really doing the thing you want to be doing. So if you're wanting to train something to, like, I want to get really good at handling canes or whips or paddles or something, if those tools are also being used for punishment, you're just kind of canceling out the training you're doing for pain endurance there. So hopefully that answers your question. So that's what I would draw a hard line, but that's very subjective. Like, different people are motivated by different things in kink. If you're into emotional sadomasochism, you like fear play, you have a fetish for, corporal punishment or like domination techniques so your partner is very cold and withdrawn, like, maybe those things actually work really well for you and you like feeling afraid and you like having those emotions around the surface when you play with them, and maybe you are trying to train for that. But it's, like, don't use the same tool for too many things because you're going to develop too many associations that overlap and might get connected between each other in weird ways that you're maybe not anticipating. Yeah, it's all operant conditioning at the end of the day. Thank you for saying this thing that you wanted to talk about. I want to foster honesty with my sub. It's very helpful to hear this. Yeah, if what you want is to foster honesty in your relationship, I don't think physical punishment is the way to do that. Like, I think, like, that is actually more about building emotional trust in the relationship, that you're not going to abandon them when they're honest with you. Like, I think rewarding honesty is really important. So at that point, I would consider some kind of non-painful physical punishment, or maybe just some kind of further instruction, or maybe the classic, like, son, I'm real disappointed in you kind of talk, but directed towards your submissive, of just outlining, like, hey, this is like the behavior that you did. I noticed it. I know we're both working to try and make this better. Let's come up with a plan to like make this better and to have this not happen again in the future. You know, I want you to write me a letter saying that you're sorry that you did this and like why you're sorry. And then here's the plan we're going to follow in the future going forward. And it's only after that, if that keeps being violated, if they're really not holding up to their agreement, where maybe after 2 or 3 times of them just not being able to conform, then you escalate to a physical punishment to try and really teach the lesson, because it's not getting through other mechanisms. But I think, you know, especially subs that are service oriented, I think are pretty highly motivated by like wanting to please their partner, wanting to do the right thing. And if you help work with them to get the tools that they need to conform to what the rules are, they're going to want to follow that. But yeah. Alrighty. Okay, we already have like, it has flown on by. Like it becomes hypersensitivity. I think you can also just like make it harder to mentally process. But I mean, like, you know, I mean, I don't know if this is like a good one-to-one for everybody, but like, you know, I definitely feel like a lot of anticipation if I know I'm going to have to get in cold water, because I know that it's uncomfortable. I know that I don't like it. And I know that I'm going to have to experience it. And I think that makes the experience of being in cold water even worse because of that. I like the idea that an egg and Vlad the Impaler are currently jousting in the chat for unknown reasons. All right, let's get to some more questions here. And thank you all so much for all of the... Oh, it's notifications for... That was the event log. Okay, I was like, what is that highlighting? I am now saying that it's telling me when people are doing gifted memberships. That's what that is about. Do. Yeah, I saw you struggling. I was like, oh no. Yeah, apparently you can't test chatbot commands unless your stream is currently live on YouTube, which is super exciting. Yeah, they're just button clicks for now. Hopefully just button clicks for now. Always make a point to enjoy life no matter what. You only get one chance. Remember, good luck to your future experiences. Oh, yes. Mr. Beansman has a super chat, and they say... Oh, here, I have way too many tabs open right now. Okay. Just to go back to earlier, me and Miss like the eternity cuff is that I can still have my dungeon choker to help me with my headspace at events. Forgot to see where's banned chat. Oh, yes. Yes, that's right. Yep. I have to, unfortunately, ban that because people are weird about that word for some reason. Oh my god, my nose has been so dry. I'm so sorry, you guys. The allergies, weed allergies are really bad right now. I don't know if Dandelions are blooming or what, but my nose is so dry that I'm glad the Impaler's gonna love this. I wake up with like I've woken up with a nosebleed like 2 out of the last 3 mornings, and it freaked me out because I didn't realize it was my nose. It just had like, I'd be brushing my teeth in the morning and then a bunch of blood would come out. I'd be like, what the fuck? And then I realized it wasn't coming out of my gums. It was like nasal drainage from the back of my throat from having nosebleeds overnight because the air is drier. I have a fan going. Allergens are pretty bad, but then I have to have my windows open to cool off, so then I have to interact with the allergens at least during the nighttime, and it's just fucking terrible. Okay, great. There can only be one. Okay, all right. Going on to more questions. Oh, good question, Grayson. Do you have recommendations for someone who doesn't know how to get into the scene, but isn't interested in making a FetLife account because of the I think age, sex, location for ID now? Oh, do you have to do that to make a FetLife account now? Do you have to put in? I mean, you don't have to put in a real one, I guess, technically speaking. That is hard. If you're not willing to have any FetLife account whatsoever, that's going to be difficult. What would I do? Well, most things are probably going to require you to make an account somewhere, but it maybe won't be FetLife, so maybe that's acceptable. So you could look at the Bloom Community app, aka Plura, that has some events on it depending on where you live, especially if you're in like California, the Bay Area. Lots of events on the Bloom/Plura Community app. You can look at Forbidden Tickets, their website. You don't have to have a membership or an account to browse through there and see an event. They mostly have online events on there, but they will also have in-person events for some locations too, so that could be worth browsing through. Google, honestly, sometimes, depending on where you live, you can just like Google dungeons. Like, actually, I like to demonstrate this just to prove to people how like easy it is to do this. I'm gonna right now, I'm not gonna show it on screen, but I am gonna go, let's just go, where have I not done before? Let's do Baltimore. All right, dude, let's do Baltimore area BDSM dungeon. We're just gonna straight Google search. First thing that pops up is a Baltimore dungeon. I don't know if it's good or not. I'm not gonna share the name of it. But they have actually the third search result. Apparently it's been around since 1997. The third search result is newcomers to Kink. Oh, also, a lot of people on Reddit. A lot of people on Reddit will, like, there'll at least be somebody at some point in time who is asked in, like, r/Baltimore, r/Seattle WA, r/New Brunswick. I don't think that's actually a city, but, you know, whatever. Insert city name here or state name or, you know, what a county, whatever is most relevant for you. If it's a big enough city, somebody else has probably asked of what the local BDSM dungeons are like, and that can be a good way to find them. There's also eastcoastkinkevents.com. What is this? I have not seen this before. I mean, I know at least some of these names. I know that some of them are legit. Like, I know what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these? So apparently there's a website. I'll put a link to this in the chat here. But there's a website that's called eastcoastkinkevents.com. And if you're on the East Coast, maybe that's a good resource to start with, to find things to go to websites. I wonder if there's one. Is there westcoastkinkevents.com? Is that a thing? Or is it it's only for the East Coast? I don't want to be sad if it's only for the East Coast, but that actually is a good resource for people. But there's other similar websites that, oh no, there's not. There's no West Coast Kink Events. Womp womp. A girl can dream. A girl can dream. I change my birthday to FetLife every year, so it should just always say I'm 69. That's funny. I mean, yeah, I guess if you're making an account, you don't have to say what your actual age is. I think you can only change it once every so many months anyway, so yeah, finding an event that's not on FetLife, you're just gonna... You can definitely be in the community. You can find ways to get involved, but most munches are going to be on FetLife, and most groups for organizing things and getting links to stuff are going to be through FetLife. So it's going to be hard if you decide not to make an account, but you don't have to put your actual real age, real birthday, real gender, anything like that. Just make a one-off email account you don't ever use for anything else. Honestly, like, if you're thinking about making one, I'd probably make one now before it becomes more onerous to make a FetLife account and just deal with it. Unfortunately, there's not a way to know if your question's in the queue. I tried to set up a bot to do just that earlier, but it wasn't working for some reason, so I'm gonna have to troubleshoot it later. It's hard to find peers in my age in kink spaces that are on my age, 24 to 27. TNG events. Look for TNG events. That's like the primo TNG age right there. I mean, I guess it depends on where you live a little bit. Like if it's a college town, you're gonna get more weighted towards like, you know, the bottom half. And then if it's a professional town, like if it's like Chicago or something, probably might be more weighted towards the upper end of that spectrum. But like, I mean, I honestly don't even like when I go to kink events, I honestly don't have any problems finding people around my age, but I mostly go to events in the Bay Area now. And like most people there are in their like late 20s to mid 30s, I'd say. So yeah, I also don't have to put in your actual location either. But yeah, if you want to find people that are age 18 to 35, TNG events are going to be the best way. I have a whole video about that on my channel already that you can go and check out. But, you know, look for that. Or Bent is a similar thing, but that goes up to age 40. So that maybe isn't what you're looking for. But, yeah. Alrighty, going back to more questions. You're assuming I don't always have Vaseline on hand. I guess I am. You know what? I shouldn't make assumptions. No, do not use a permanent glue that won't come off. Do not super glue something to your face. Oh my goodness. I'm very sorry. Allergies. Killing me, man. Any advice other than clear communication? You got me. On how to manage body dysmorphia during scenes. Not sure if this is something you cover. If not, no worries. Like is it you feel, like, I'm assuming it's like you feel body dysmorphia about yourself while you're playing. I don't have any, like, you know, pre-standing advice on how to deal with body dysmorphia during scenes. But I would probably say if like this is an issue that like one of my partners was dealing with, how I would probably recommend them to deal with it, as I would say, okay, let's think about like what clothing we're wearing that feels good to you. Maybe not necessarily playing in public right away, like maybe just doing more things in private and building up a level of confidence first. And then again, the subject of the day today is praise kink, I guess. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be like, I wouldn't necessarily say that your partner has to affirm the parts of your body that you're the most insecure about, because I think no matter what, your brain's going to be like, they're lying, that's not true. But if they're giving you genuine compliments about things that they do like about your body, you can choose to focus on those as opposed to like thinking about the things that, you know, make you feel dysmorphia. But yeah, that's definitely a complicated one. Body dysmorphia is a thing. Wait, let me look something up real quick here. I have another idea. I'm wondering if there's like a DBT thing for this, because I feel like I remember seeing it. I know a lot of people use CBT, not that kind, not the kinky kind. But like, cause what like CBT? Actually, I think CBT probably works well for body dysmorphia, because CBT primarily tries to target like distorted thinking, and redirecting distorted thinking through like mindfulness techniques, and exposure, and then like intentionally changing your thought and response patterns. There's something that's called exposure and response prevention, but I'm not sure how you would incorporate that into a kink scene necessarily. But I think kind of that basic like recorrecting distorted thinking would probably be my first technique, and that's the same thing you do with the dialectical behavioral therapy as much as CBT. Is like acknowledging the feeling is there, and then replacing that thought when it comes up in your head with something that is more positive. Not saying like, not replacing it with like a platitude of like, you know, like my body's beautiful no matter what, or like I actually love this part about myself. Like I'm not saying to like gaslight yourself, because unfortunately a lot of CBT does get done that way. But I would say I would maybe correct it from that into like more of like an appreciation of like my body is allowing me to experience this thing that I enjoy. Like my body is like, I'm appreciating my body because it's letting me do something that I like doing, like more of a body neutrality thing as opposed to like, I love myself. But that's my own personal approach. I wouldn't necessarily say anyone else has to do that besides me, but I've found that to be like, if I get into a mindset of like, if I feel insecure about something, or like I'm sensitive about something, like I don't try to tell myself, well, I'm beautiful actually, and actually my body's perfect. That doesn't work. Instead, I try to focus on like, actually, I think it's really great that I have a body that allows me to enjoy these things, and that I can be here with my partner and they can be touching me and I have the space available to do these things. But yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Is there any recommendations for creating a munch in an area where there's a lot of people that are curious about BDSM and kinky stuff, but none are in the lifestyle or even heard of the basics of SSC? I mean, it sounds like you just got to make a newbie-friendly munch. I would actually probably have it be, if that was me, I would probably do some kind of hybrid discussion group munch meetup thing. Like I would do, maybe you have like a monthly topic, or you do like a basic series where it's a munch, but then you have a facilitated conversation and like, you know, group chat about, you know, like consent or spanking or whatever it is you want to talk about. Praise and body worship can be helpful, but exactly as Evie said, it can make things worse. A daily affirmation each morning, as said, as part of a DS, can help. Yeah, like not having it be like having it be something that builds. That's a good point actually, because I should have been more specific with that. Is there's a difference between like offering platitudes in the moment when you already feel bad, because your brain is just not going to listen to that. It's going to shut it down. If you work, it gets sort of like you got to do the long-term work ahead of time, right? You got to do the prep, all right, to make this more viable. And the prep that you do is building a better relationship to your body before the scene even starts, which is very unsexy and annoying that you have to do that. But that's ultimately going to be the best technique to get you the most benefit. Yeah. But if you want to, like, if you want to experiment playing with like body worship and praise as part of a scene, maybe that helps. Like, it's not never do it. It just doesn't work for everyone. Yeah, 15-minute warning. So if you have not answered your question, you can go ahead and re-put it back in the chat again now. I am currently... Oh, because it gives me the time that chats got sent in. That's exciting. This is fun. I am currently on questions from about... Let me see. Where am I exactly? I am at questions from 6:40. So if you asked questions after that and I haven't gotten to it yet, now is your opportunity to ask again. But I'm going to get to a couple more that are right here in front of me. Jay asked, any advice for when you're going through a breakup and worried you're never going to find someone whose kinks align as perfectly with yours as they did with your ex-partner? Oh, Jay, I feel you. I'm so sorry about that. Breakups fucking suck ass. So I understand the worry of like, you're never going to find someone whose kinks align with you. I guess we're actually kind of talking about like distorted thinking again, right? Like, yes, I understand, because I am a leftist, vegan, polyamorous, kinky person. Like, and I'm also on the A spectrum. So like the degrees of compatibility that are required to even get in the door is like pretty high. So I also feel the pressure of like, oh, I'm not going to find people, like it's so hard to find compatible partners, like it fucking sucks, and like, you know, if I ever break up with anybody, then I'm going to be by myself forever, and there's also been times when I've been like completely single and not been dating anybody, and like that's also sucked to be like, wow, it's not even that I've never even found anyone whose kinks align with mine the way that I want them to at all, point blank period. And I've made do in areas of compatibility before that sucked, and I don't want to have to go back to that again, and I'll never find anyone who's going to be like me at all. So I've definitely been there. When you're in the breakup, I think especially when it's really fresh, I think it's important to recognize, like, we're doing our little DBT skills, all right? We're like, we recognize this is an emotion that's happening, right? It could be in our bodies, maybe in our brains, probably both. You know, we feel sad, we feel anxious about the future, we feel worried about what's going to happen, you know, with pain from being alone, all those feelings, to a certain extent, make sense and are valid. But the likelihood that you're never going to find anyone whose kinks align with you the way they did with your ex-partner is unlikely, even if you have really niche kinks. And maybe this is a little bit of like an unorthodox suggestion, but what I have found to be helpful for me is, like, one, recognizing the feelings, giving myself permission to experience them, yes, and then coming up with a plan of, like, okay, well, if that's important to me, how can I work towards making that be possible in my life? And doing concrete steps towards, like, all right, I'm going to get involved with socials. I'm going to go to more events. I'm going to join special interest groups that are particular to the kinks that I have. I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to try things. And knowing that I have a plan of, okay, when I feel better, when I'm in a good headspace, I'm going to be doing the work to make the thing that I want to have happen in my life happen, I find to be reassuring, because then it makes it this, like, scary thing I have no control over, or I'm going to be twisting in the wind, to, like, okay, I'm going to be doing what I can do, and that means that I'm making it more likely the thing that I want to have in my life is going to be possible. And that, to me personally, is reassuring. Yeah, but it's a tough one. Going through a breakup is really hard. You just got to give yourself permission to feel those feelings and not bury them, because if you do bury them, they're gonna, like, pop up again somewhere. I think also there could be a little bit, and I don't want to, this is not me trying to doubt your experience, I would just ask you to reflect on, are you sure that it's really that perfect that no one else could ever replicate it? Because there's a reason that you broke up, right? So, like, there's some lack of compatibility in there somewhere that another person you might be able to align with them on, or that you can learn with and grow together with. So maybe you're also sort of, like, over amplifying the level of how compatible you were with your partner. And again, not sure this is an orthodox suggestion or not, but I think also remembering what, like, didn't work about their relationship can help you move on too. And then focusing on social things, reconnecting with people, trying to be in community with people, not necessarily for dating, but just because, you know, friendship and social connection helps us get through tough times like this, is also valuable, because that'll also be building those social bonds that'll help you eventually in the future find another partner, because it will happen. It's a matter of time and patience. Bandita, do you want to come say hello? I heard you in there. Miss Bandita. Good girl. Good girl. I heard you wake up in there, sweetie. Hi. How we doing, baby? How are we on this fine, beautiful day? The people have missed you, my darling. They have seeked your wisdom. They have sought out your knowledge. They wish to know what is going on in that beautiful little doggy brain of yours. I mean, your little tiny little, look how small her little head is. It's so tiny. This little small little brain, but so full of knowledge and power. What do you think, Bandita? What's your advice for going through a breakup? What's your advice for going through a breakup, Bandita? You ever been through a breakup, Bandita? How hard was it? Was it hard? The other thing that you can do too, to kind of help you get through the breakup is, and I'll put this, actually, I wanted to find a website for this, is like, to get over the breakup, I think doing like the opposite action to what love is important to like help you get over it. That's like a weird URL there, but it seems legit. Of like helping you process, okay, because a lot of people when they break up, they're like, oh, I want to be friends, right? And that can happen in the future, but I believe it's good to make a clean break and do actions that are like all the way the opposite of what you would do when you're in love with someone, right? Which is like thinking about them all the time, trying to like contact them all the time, ruminating on like the happy memories in the relationship, doing things to mentally keep the feeling of the relationship alive. Like checking up on people. Also things like checking up people's social media. Oh my God, even if you're not talking to them, like don't do that either. Don't look at their social media. Don't try to reach out to them. And do the things that are opposite of that, right? So instead of checking in on them on social media, like unfriend them, maybe block them temporarily, right? Remove them from your contacts list in your phone. Maybe block their number if the urge is really strong and you're having trouble not trying to reach out to contact them. And by reducing the contact, even if it was really painful, and like choosing not to ruminate on those memories you have together, you're giving your brain room to like forget that attachment to a certain extent, and then make it less painful when you do maybe potentially talk in the future, if you do want to have that, or even just like kind of let go more generally. And hopefully by doing the opposite action, even if it is really painful in the moment, it'll have better long-term outcomes for you. I think it's a process, especially for if it's a really, really long-term relationship and then you have a breakup. Like if you've been together for like 4, 5, 10, 20 years and you separate, like I'm not saying you should instantly overnight, especially if you have to untangle like life stuff with each other. I'm not saying you need to go completely cold turkey, but it's also easier to do opposite action stuff when you have somebody else you can talk to and reach out to that's not just your partner. And unfortunately, a lot of people end up in a position where their partner is their main social connection. Yeah, I also found substitutions helpful. I'd send my partner so many links, so I started using another group where I can info dump. Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah. Like if you're like, if maybe you're used to like exchanging Instagram reels every day with your partner, maybe you start doing that with like, your sister or one of your best friends, or you like join a Discord group where you guys can like share memes all the time, and maybe that's how you deal with that urge. Yeah, redirecting it to something else is also good. Yeah, definitely trying to decondition from the relationship for sure. Hi, Papita. Yeah, you can lick my hand if you want. That's fine. All right, 5 more minutes. I'm going to scroll back down here to the bottom. I was on questions from probably about a little bit before 7 o'clock, so I apologize. We typically can't get to everything, but as a reminder, if you want to make sure I get to your question right away, you can come into the chat earlier and ask it at the beginning of the stream, or you can use a super chat and then I will see it right away. Otherwise, I can't promise I'm going to get to every single question. Hi, sweet baby. Hi, sweet girl. What are you doing, sneezy girl? Hi. Relatively new BDSM channel with a corgi. Oh, interesting. I don't know anyone. I don't know any new BDSM channels. Maybe we'll try to find that on Tuesday next week. Yeah, how do you cope with breakups? Yeah, contrary actions. Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know what the terminology is for like other systems, but with DBT, it's like opposite actions, like all the way opposite actions, contrary to your action urge. During a bad breakup, I wrote a list of every reason I disliked my ex, reread it whenever I had that moment of should I go back a few months later. Yeah, that's also a good one too. Even if it's like little stuff, but that was annoying and like working against your relationship. Yeah, if your question got missed, you can definitely re-ask it again next time. For sure. Don't feel like you can't re-ask it. But now is actually, yours is the next question I saw at the very end of the stream. So actually, I'm going to be answering it right now, Vegan X Witch. Do you have any advice for a DDLG, so daddy dom little girl couple, that doesn't have their own space but are wanting to grow their relationship / dynamic so they can explore more when they do have their own space? I mean, I think probably the best way to do that is with more covert stuff. So, phones are awful, but also they are a benefit. So maybe having protocol of how you address each other over text message, having like a morning routine that you do over text message with each other. Like, maybe your partner has you like say a phrase when you wake up in the morning before bedtime. Sharing like fantasies and stories with each other over text message. Things like that I think are all good to do. If you have the option of like going out and going to community spaces, that can be a good tool as well to kind of help grow your dynamic. Like maybe you could, maybe you can say you're going out for a date and then maybe go out actually to go to a munch. Especially if one's in a restaurant, it's pretty easy to be like, oh yeah, we went out, we got pizza, we did so-and-so, which you really did, but also you like met up with other people while you were going out to get the pizza can work as well. But yes, I did see their question. I think daddy dom little girl stuff really lends itself well to like long distance, and text-based things. Just I don't know. The role play flavor is like it's a strong flavor. It's kind of like it's like vanilla extract. It's prominent when it's in the mix, and so I think that makes it easier to have it like feel real, even if you don't currently have your own space at the time. It could also be things you could do behind closed doors if you have. I don't know how much personal space you have. If you're like living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 4 people, or if you like you have one room in a house, but you can also do things like have your partner like lay out your clothes for you in the morning, have them pick out your underwear, have them lay out your pajamas before you go to bed, and then doing things where you're like if it's a space where you can like go in the bathroom together and do stuff to get ready at night, like maybe you have your own bathroom where that's just like normal and acceptable with the living arrangement you have. Doing things like I talked about earlier on in the stream about like maybe they can brush your hair for you, they can help you brush your teeth, they can set a timer for you to brush your teeth, they can like remind you to drink water throughout the day, they can do little check-ins with you at lunchtime and be like thinking of you princess, or like maybe you get into like I don't know, making really cute bento lunches or something. Like as your new hobby is making bento lunches, and you make little like heart sandwiches, and then you cut out the cucumber slices to look like flowers, and do that kind of stuff that's like cutesy and could feel DDLG-esque, but also just like a cute fun thing to do. So those are some activities I would potentially think about doing. All right, gonna go back to where we are currently at in the chat. Kinky underwear and pajamas. I mean, it could be, or it could just be normal stuff. If you get some like cutesy but like still adult undergarments, or like a cute little pajama set from Victoria's Secret or Nordstrom's or somewhere. I will be in the gaming stream this Monday, I swear. All right, I'll hold you to it. Otherwise, it's the boiling water for you, Egg. It's the hairbrushing for me. Oh yeah, hairbrushing. Good bonding for pets, littles, everyone, honestly. It's just fun. Just nice bristles against the scalp. Any makeup brand recommendations? Ooh. All my eyeshadow is from an indie brand called Give Me Glow Cosmetics. Cosmetics eyeshadow. Those are my favorite. Prada eyeliner I think is really good, and then the Makeup Forever foundations are really good. I have their skin tint, and I also have their like full coverage foundation. So there you go. Makeup recommendations. Ask me for more specific recommendations maybe next week. And with that being said, it's going to be everything for tonight, you all. Thank you all so much for all of your wonderful questions. I'm going to try really hard to figure out the chat bot, although honestly, even just having the bot like have an independent chat feed for me to be able to scroll through has been helpful. It does seem to have a cutoff. I think I like refreshed something, I think, at one point, and it made it go away. But I did get to keep track of the older chat for longer than I normally do. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you all so much. And I will talk to you all again later. Bye. Have a good night.